music through his music. And I've said this before, I believe that people are redeemable, which is why I really don't adhere. I don't believe in cancel culture, but at some point, you have to recognize that most people are going to do what they've always done. And so, this is pretty much how credit companies work. We know this. We know that typically if you have good spending habits, that's going to ensure the company that you will be reliable. And so typically they go by what you'll do in the future, by what you've done in the past. Even criminals, when they're on the run, people, government officials can track them down. Law enforcement can typically track them down because they have certain habits. They have certain things that they do. They'll study them. This guy is into dive bars. He wears orange bandanas and has an affinity for Harley Davidsons. So people are really creatures of habits. So they know that wherever you go, you're typically going to move a certain way. They'll be able to find you at a dive bar or the things that you habitually like to do, right? And so, to me, America's culture of exploitation isn't going anywhere. It's safe to say that the unrighteous will continue to prey on those that they find weak, because they've always done that here in America and internationally. And I'm watching Vicki Dillard, and I like to listen to Vicki Dillard because she is unapologetically her, and although I don't always agree with the things that she has to say, and sometimes her approach could be, a little abrasive, I respect fearlessness, and that's one thing that you can't take away from Vicki. You can't take away her courage and her candidacy, and I respect people who fight for the underdog, and that's what Vicki does. She fights for the underdog. And so she made a comment to the effect of, she said something like, look, just give us our reparations. I love how she expresses herself. She cracks me up. But she was just like, give us our reparations, cut the check, and leave us alone. She said something to that effect where it was like, can we just leave? Can we just give us our reparations, give us our money so we can just get out of here? Like, can we separate ourselves from you guys? Like, she was basically saying like we want black folks and white folks to be separate. Like she was basically making the argument against integration, and was saying it because it's like every time that we're around, we get exploited. Every time that we are around, we become the battery. We become the ones that you feed off of, draining our life force, draining our energy, taking our ideas, and giving us nothing, crumbs and peanuts, and keeping us in this the hamster wheel. But we're the genius. We're the commodity. So the only solution, she's like, we gotta separate ourselves because we're tired of getting exploited. And I understood where she was coming from. I understood her point on that. If one group of people only know how to steal, right, and kill and destroy, and this is like their tendency, like this is what they do, chances are they're gonna do it again. And so the only way to not get destroyed really would be to separate yourself. But I thought about it and I said, well, okay, I get this, right? And if Vicki has a chance to watch this, I would love for her to just listen to this perspective. So Vicki, I know that you're a believer, right? I'm a believer. And so we have to look at it not from the perspective of getting too caught up in the race thing, but from a believer's perspective, right? So looking at it from God's point of view, with God's eye, who says that I create a heaven and a hell, a physical heaven and a hell, but we also believe that there's heaven and hell on earth, to separate the righteous from the devious. And you call them coons and butter biscuits and things like that just because somebody doesn't looks like you doesn't mean that they are for you, right? All skin folk are not kinfolk. So if we go with this concept of separation, right, I would create a a world where we could separate the devious from the righteous. Period. And to me, that's godlike, because God does it. The Almighty does it. He separates the devious from the wicked. And his criteria is not a matter of how many material things that you have, or how you look, or how much money you have, or anything like that. He determines you by your spiritual bank account. What do you have in your spiritual bank account, right? And I do believe that the work that I see being done by these people that are fighting for reparations, I see that as godly. And I know that a lot of them do have targets on their backs. Vicky Dillard, Tariq Nasheed, Boyce Watkins, even young Pharaoh. They have a target on their backs. Why? Because there is a threat in freeing the people that are getting preyed on if the system will catapult itself if they don't have the battery to fuel it. Like, you have to understand, like, this whole thing is in place. It's not just coincidental. It's in place very strategically. It's designed this way very strategically. And the minute that the underdog rises up to their powers, the minute that this whole infrastructure will shatter. However, you gotta tip your hat to the people that are willing to have the target on their back, endure the frivolous surveillances and the prying into their lives, and really having a target on their backs to free the people. That's heroic. And when we discuss power, I can live with somebody who, like, I understand growing up in America that you really aren't going to make it out of here without having some kind of stain in your mentality of racism or sexism. Like, this is very much a part of our culture. So to expect people to be absolutely free of white identity extremism and free of something that they are literally bred to believe and indoctrinated in is a little bit unrealistic, right? But we can recognize that it is to varying degrees. And I say that again to say, like, with my white friends, my Asian friends, my Latin friends, like, I only want friends that I can have these type of candid discussions with. I don't want friends who are like, no, I don't see color, I'm colorblind. Well, you know, I know that you may not be, you're not a Klan member or whatever. You're not like, in one of these like white supremacist organizations because you're my buddy. But no, we know that growing up in this society, there's going to be some sprinkle of an ism inside of there. It's damn near impossible. So when it comes to leadership, I can deal with a leader who their personal issues may be, they may have a personal gripe with black people, or they may have a personal gripe with whoever, women or whatever. I can deal with that if they are able to put their leadership above their personal gripes, above their personal biases, and say, look, as the head of this organization, I have to do what's best for the organization despite the way that I feel about this community or that community or whatever. That's maturity, to say that, yes, I have my personal biases. Yes, even people who discriminate on poor people. Well, they may say, well, we look at America as a corporation, and we look at the poor as bleeding the economy, and they are a liability and not an asset to this corporation of America. They may have that outlook, but at the end of the day, if you are in a leadership position, you have to do what's best for the entire group. You have to do what's best for the poor people, the women, the weak, the degeneratives. Like, we understand, even in the Quran, we understand that these rules are in place, not for the strong, but for the weak. And so when it comes to power, we have to understand that we are in the midst of a change of rulership and a change of reign, and it's very imperative that the underdogs awaken to that reality, that things are changing. There's a shift right now that's occurring. And you better be ready to step up to your power. You better be ready to step up to your new leadership position. And I think that you are more equipped than anyone at this point because you have endured the most. So when you are now given a leadership position and you are now able to govern, you are going to have mercy and compassion because you know what it's like to be counted out, to be targeted, to be unprotected and unprovided for, and to have a lot of people go against you. You know what it's like. It's made you stronger. And these are the exact qualities that are going to be necessary for you to take your reign. And so I refer back to the movie The Hidden Colors. I don't know if you guys remember this movie. It's been a while. But you remember that sister. She was the battery of that corporation. She was like the mastermind, the creative. Like she was the fuel. She was the brilliance. She was literally like the life force behind this corporation. But she was still being treated like crap. Like she was still being forced to use a separate bathroom. And that, to me, is a microcosm of what occurs every day here in this country, in America. My prediction is as long as the wicked have power, they will continue to exploit everyone else. It's their nature. It's what they're going to do. Now, to me, it's confusing how these record label executives and, you know, these people that are in charge of these artists and these BS 360 deals can't sing. They can't rap. They can't write a genius song. They can't do a dance. None of that. But you're going to tell me that you are going to take all of the profit off of my creativity? Now, don't get me wrong. There's everybody needs a team. We got to have certain things in place. You got to have the mastermind. You got to have the marketer. You got to have the creative. You know, teamwork. But you're not taking majority. If I'm the fuel, if I'm the battery, if there's no show without me, you're not taking majority of it. The NBA, the NFL, I mean, these are athletic giants. You know, the owners of the teams look nothing like them. They can't shoot that jump shot. They can't dunk. They can't do that free throw. Like all of that stuff, like they can't do it. All they can do is be observers and spectators to like genius, to athletic genius. They can't do it. And so our genius really is the fuel of this economy. Hip hop is America's #1 export. What does that say? What does that say? Internationally, they look at us like superhumans. Like, don't get me wrong, we need to address our image internationally as far as the way that we're being marketed, and like I've addressed the Jezebel spirit, and you know, but let's be clear. Internationally, Black Americans are looked at as like superhuman, like freak shows. Like, how are you this talented? Like, how do you play like this? It's like superhuman to them. Look at Bruce Lee. We used to watch these Bruce Lee flicks. My brothers were really into martial arts, and we used to watch these Bruce Lee flicks on Friday nights, get the popcorn. And so I grew up really watching a lot of these kung fu movies, and you would see like the Bruce Lees. They would have all of these people come against them, all of these martial artists come against them. Even in real life, Bruce Lee had a target on his back. And it would be a lot, 10, 20, 30 coming against Bruce Lee. What does that mean? Well, if it's 20 people against one, then that means that each of the 20 have 1/20th of that one person's power, of that one person's genius, of that one person's intellect, of that one person's skill. And you can't celebrate a victory when it's not a fair fight. Like, I'm sorry, like if LeBron or like if the Lakers go to an elementary school and they pick like a basketball player, like one kid, and then they like they beat him like terribly. You think that they're gonna celebrate beating a kid? Like, that's no victory. Like, that's no win. What is so many of you against one? That's not a victory. Like, certainly you can't even feel good about yourselves. Why did it take so many people to come against one person? Why did it take all of your collective power to come against one person? Even if you brought that one person down, you can't feel proud of that win. You can't, that's not a victory. That's not. I'm sorry, it's just not. And so you look at it like, if African Americans or black people make up 13% of the population, but you've got like 50% of the population like desperate to keep black people in captivity, what does that say? All of these people and all of these policies and like mass incarceration and then like the self-esteem that they're like so desperately trying to like get in your head and make you feel bad about yourself. Like, what does that say to you? And it's so many of them and it's so few of you. I don't think I have to spell it out much more than that, but what does that say to you? What does that mean to you? When you've got corporations and agencies and like lots of people invested in your demise, what does that mean when it's such an unfair fight? What does that tell you? That shouldn't tell you to feel bad about yourself. That shouldn't trigger low self-esteem. That should make you feel like a giant. Like, whoa, I'm that powerful? All of these people? And to me, if I'm the boss, right, and I'm watching this whole thing unfold, I'm like, nah, I don't want the 20 on my team that are going against that one. I want the one. Damn. It took 20 people for that one person? 10 people against that one person? Damn. I need the strongest on my team. I need the most brilliant on my team. That's the winner. The one that the collective is trying to take out. The one that the mass is going against. That's the winner. That's who I want on my team. And that's why when it comes to me building a team, I can't be racist. I can't be sexist because I have a commitment to be the best. So if nepotism or racism or sexism is the filter that I'm using, that means that I'm not getting the best and the brightest. And that means that I'm cutting my nose to spite my face. That means that I'm watering down my brand. I'm tarnishing my brand because, oh man, I gotta let so-and-so in because they're white, or I gotta let so-and-so in because they're a woman, or I gotta let so-and-so in. But I know, even though they're mediocre and they're inferior intellectually and they're, because of my commitment to this, no, that's not how that works. Not for me, at least. I don't want to water down my brand. I don't want anybody in my team that sucks just because they happen to be a certain gender or happen to be a certain color. And if you think that that's cute by doing that, look at what place we're in. I mean, why is it China kicking our ass? We've got these nations that are kicking our ass because we thought it was cute to buy into racism, to buy into sexism, to allow people who were weak and inferior minded to feel like they could get the upper hand just by the premise of their skin color. They didn't have to do the work. They didn't have to cultivate their minds. They didn't have to become the best and the brightest. They just said, in this culture, because you happen to look a certain way, we're gonna pass you through. But now, on an international level, we're getting our ass handed to us. So you thought this whole thing was cute. You thought letting the idiots and the mediocre people through was cute. You thought you had the last laugh. We'll just continue this white identity extremism culture and it's going to work for us. And we'll just, even though we know we're not truly the best and the brightest, as long as we can have the upper hand and it feeds our egos. But now, what's happening? We're getting our asses handed to us. It was cute until China stepped in. It was cute until nations that only wanted the best and the brightest, that only wanted the most intellectuals, that only wanted the strongest, that said, I don't care about racism and sexism and this and that. No, we want the best and the brightest. We want the fiercest competitors. We want the warriors. We want the strongest. That's what builds the nation. Not some weak people thinking that they're strong because they've got a whole army of people that look like them and they haven't cultivated their minds and they're not strong and they're literally inferior off of some inflated BS, ego. And it was cute. It was real cute, right? America was real, real cute. Letting all these people that had they had no reason to be let through, but you passed them through. You passed them through. Like, you're a teacher and you're letting these people get to the next level, and you know they don't know the information to pass the test. You know that you are literally doing them a disservice by passing them through. But you're just gonna, hey, well, if everybody passes them through, if we can collectively lower the bar, then it'll work, right? If we can just pass them through, pass them through, pass them through. But then there's gonna come a point where your intellect is scrutinized. There's gonna come a point where it's not gonna work anymore. And this is what we're seeing, and we are unprepared. And they're looking at a vast majority of us in America as a liability and not an asset. Oh, you wanted to dumb down the culture, okay. But now you've got a whole country of dumb people. You wanted to weaken the culture by drugs and alcohol and all of these things to make the people weak, to exploit the people. But now, you've got a collective culture of dumb and weak people. And so when these other nations come in and kick our asses, who's to blame? You're to blame by setting the bar low. So when I say separate the wicked from the righteous, Malcolm X had to go overseas and it changed his perspective. See, you can be in this bubble of America, right? And you can be fed this BS. And I'm so blessed that I've had the chance to travel a little bit internationally. Not as much as I'm going to and I want to, but I've had the chance to really meet some really amazing people from different countries and different cultures. I mean, brilliant minds, really brilliant people. And go other places, and I'm like, wow, I'm embraced. I went to Paris, I'm like, wow, I'm popping. I'm deeply melanated, but I'm in Paris. These white men are bending over backwards, going crazy for me. So when you have a chance to leave what you're used to, because it's very easy to get indoctrinated and only believe that what is around you is the limitations of the possibilities of life, when there's a whole nother world out there. So Malcolm, who was America's #1 enemy, Malcolm X, was vilified. He had a target on his back. He travels, he sees Muslims, black, white, Latin, Asian, all devoted to Allah, all praying together. And it changed his view entirely. He's like, oh, I was handed the okie doke. I was bombarded with racism to think that all white people were this way, that they were all blue-eyed devils. And I'm traveling internationally and I'm seeing my brothers and sisters and they don't even look like me. Like, this is the brainwashing of America. You'll think that white people are so morally depleted, and then you step outside of America and you see that there are righteous people of all races. And the great lengths that the wicked go to keep their power and their dominance and their money. Ladies, I know you can relate. I don't date anymore. been on a couple dates, you know. As a single woman, I went out on a few dates. And I've dated guys from different cultures and different backgrounds. And it's nice, you know. You go for sushi one day. You might go for Jamaican the next day. You know, you might meet a vegan brother. He might take you to a nice vegan spot. You have some real good plant-based food one day. You know, variety is the spice of life. But anyways, ladies, I know you can relate. Have you ever been out with like a really boring guy? I mean, like just dull and uninteresting. And this guy has no style, no swag, really. He's no personality. I mean, he can't make you laugh. He's not even saying things that are interesting. He's really not even, you know, all that intelligent. But he's got a couple dollars. And do you know that there are men that they can never get your time of day or attention as a woman if they didn't have any money? Like, they literally have like no redeeming qualities outside of their bank account. And they're aware of this. Like, don't think like they don't know, you know? And that's the reason why they'll do anything and everything. I mean, if they gotta kill, if they gotta destroy, if they gotta set you, if they gotta do, and they will do anything for it. Because why? They know that if they don't have it, they have nothing. I'm gonna leave on that note, ladies. People, it's time for you to rise to your power. Shout out to Nazir Ra. It's time for you to step up to your power. It's time for you to understand that you are the fuel. You are the commodity. You are the battery. You are the genius. You are everything. That's why they feed off of you. So for 2021, I think that that's the way that people should begin to move, begin to recognize their value and move accordingly. Until next time, peace.